Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something almost everyone grapples with: family. Specifically, the difficult side of family.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, isn't it? Families can be this incredible source of joy, support, connection.
Right. Your biggest cheerleaders.
Exactly. But then they can also be, and often are, the absolute root of our deepest stress, our anxieties, maybe even our biggest frustrations.
It's that tension. And if you're heading into a holiday gathering or just stuck in those same old arguments, the emotional temperature just skyrockets.
It really does.
So our mission in this deep dive is to pull out some powerful tools from the ancient Stoics. We're digging into their ideas about perspective, control, what our duties really are, to help you navigate those tricky family dynamics with, well, maybe a bit more resilience, less emotional whiplash, maybe.
And hopefully, yeah, a greater sense of grace through it all. It sounds ambitious, but the Stoics offer a really practical path.
And it starts with a pretty radical shift in thinking, doesn't it?
It really does. It's fundamental. We naturally want to fix things out there. Change our cousin's attitude, make our parents see things our way, stop the gossip.
Right, control the external situation.
Yeah. And Stoicism just says, stop. That's not the game. The real work, the only work you truly control, is mastering your internal world, your reactions, your judgments.
That's immediately empowering, though, isn't it? Because that feeling of helplessness when you can't change someone else's behavior, it's awful.
It is. And Stoicism says, you don't need to feel helpless because your power lies elsewhere. It's internal.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Section 1, control, and why families stress us out so much.
Right. So this brings us straight to Epictetus and his absolute cornerstone idea, the dichotomy of control.
What's up to us versus everything else?
Pretty much. He's very clear. Our happiness, our peace of mind, it depends only on what we truly control.
Yeah.
And that's a short list. It's our judgments, our values, our intentions, our choices, what he called prohairesis, our volition.
Okay, so that's the internal stuff. But everything else, that's where it gets tricky in families because everything else includes people we care about deeply.
Absolutely. And we have to be, well, almost ruthless in defining these externals, or what the Stoics called adiaphora things. They're indifferent to our core character.
Indifferent, that sounds harsh when talking about family.
It does. But it's about where your ultimate good lies. So externals, yeah, money, possessions, health, reputation, those are the obvious ones, Epictetus lists. But crucially, in a family context, it also means,
Your siblings' life choices.
yes, your mother's opinion of your partner, who gets what in the will, how your uncle behaves at Thanksgiving dinner, the actual words that come out of someone else's mouth. None of that is truly in your power.
Okay, I can see listeners pushing back right now. If my dad insults me, how is that indifferent? It feels deeply personal, deeply harmful.
And that feeling is real.
Mm.
But the Stoic analysis goes deeper. The event, hearing the words, is just a raw perception. It happens to you. The suffering, the emotional distress, that kicks in when you add a judgment. You judge those words as not just noise, but as a fundamental attack, a genuine evil aimed at your well-being.
Ah, so it's my interpretation of the event, my judgment about it, that causes the pain?
Precisely. That judgment, this is terrible, this is unbearable, this ruins everything. That is what's up to you. You can choose not to assent to that catastrophic judgment. You can choose to see it as, well, as your father, expressing his own flawed character, his own issues.
So family drama gets its power over us because we're constantly making these judgments about externals. We're saying, my peace depends on my sister approving of my life, or my happiness is ruined because my brother got the bigger inherited.
Exactly. We've misplaced our bets. We've tied our inner state to things outside our direct control. And according to the Stoics, that is the root of all negative emotions, all suffering.
They had a term for this, didn't they? Something about a sickness.
Yeah, no somata, literally, sicknesses of the mind. Chronic anxiety about family events, simmering resentment, explosive anger. These aren't just bad moods. They stem from these ingrained, mistaken judgments about what's truly good or bad.
So a nosema isn't just feeling angry once. It's when that faulty thinking becomes habitual, like a default setting.
Exactly. A passing emotion, a pathos, like a flash of fear or anger, becomes a nosoma when the underlying false belief, my worth depends on my family's approval, or material success defines me, gets deeply entrenched. It hardens into a kind of chronic condition of the soul.
Like someone in the family who is just constantly comparing themselves to everyone else, obsessed with status.
That could definitely be a manifestation of a nosoma, yeah. grounded in the mistaken belief that external validation or possessions are genuine goods.
And Seneca really zeroed in on this connection between chasing external stuff, especially material things, and emotional turmoil, didn't he?
He did. He had this great insight that the more we grab onto external things, wealth, status symbols, even reputation, the more vulnerable we become.
Absolutely.
Because those things are inherently unstable. They depend on luck, on fortuna, as he called it. Seneca pointed out that the pleasure you get from having stuff is often outweighed by the stress of keeping it, worrying about losing it, and dealing with the envy it might provoke in others.
That sounds exactly like so many family fights. Arguments over inheritance, who got what gift, who has the bigger house or the fancier car.
Right. People aren't fighting over virtue or character. They're fighting over these external markers, these indifference. And in doing so, they're just exposing themselves to constant anxiety and potential conflict because those things can always be threatened or lost.
And if someone's identity is wrapped up in being, say, the successful one in the family,
Then any perceived slight, maybe a sibling gets praised or the inheritance doesn't go their way, feels like a direct attack on their very being. It's not just about the money or the praise, it feels existential. That's the no summa talking.
let's make this concrete. The story of Joseph and his brothers. That's like peak family drama fueled by this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It's a perfect case study. What drove the brothers to violence? Jealousy over externals. Their father's favoritism, symbolized by that code.
Code, right.
Joseph's dreams, which implied future status. Their own perceived lack of status compared to him. It was all about these external markers, character, brotherhood, virtue, not even on the radar at that moment.
And they did terrible things, betrayal, leaving him for dead. It feels malicious. But the Stoics, following Socrates, had this really challenging idea about wrongdoing,
The idea that no one sins willingly.
which sounds like letting them off the hook.
It can sound that way, but it's more nuanced. It doesn't mean they weren't responsible. They absolutely were. What it means is that in the moment they chose to act, they weren't thinking, let me do this truly evil thing that will corrupt my own soul.
They thought they were doing something good for themselves, at least.
They perceived it as a benefit, yes. However distorted that perception was, they were deceived about their real interests, as the Stoics would say. They thought getting rid of Joseph would bring them more favor, secure their position, a perceived, short-term, external gain. They mistook that for a genuine good.
So applying that, when a family member is being awful gossiping, undermining you, being actively hostile, the Stoic move isn't just to grit your teeth, it's to reframe it.
Exactly. You shift from seeing pure malice to seeing profound error.
Mhm.
You recognize they are acting out of a mistaken understanding of what's truly good for them. They are fundamentally harming themselves, first and foremost, by corrupting their own character,
That changes the emotional flavor, doesn't it? From wanting revenge or feeling wounded.
to something more like pity, or at least a detached understanding. Epictetus would say, their bad actions harm them. If you react with your own anger, your own negativity, you're essentially making the same mistake they are letting an external event dictate your inner state. Understanding their error helps you preserve your own tranquility.
Okay, so we've cordoned off our inner world, focused on our judgments. Now, what about our actions? How do we actually deal with these people? How do we define our duty?
All right, that's the next crucial piece. Section 2, defining our roles and duties, and this idea of expanding concern.
This is the Stoic concept of kathekanta, right? Appropriate actions or duties.
Exactly, kathekanta. These aren't abstract moral rules floating in space. They are very specific actions determined by our relationships and our social roles. Epictetus really stresses that we all wear multiple hats.
Some roles are just natural, like being a child or a parent.
Yes, given by nature. He even points to animals caring for their young as evidence of this natural basis for duty. Then there are roles we take on through our position in society, being a citizen, a doctor, a friend, a neighbor.
And a Stoic aims to perform the duties of each role well.
With excellence. That's the practical expression of living virtuously. The Stoics listed key duties, things like fulfilling civic responsibilities, maintaining a marriage, raising children, honoring the divine, caring for aging parents.
But it's not just a checklist, is it? There's a deeper principle driving why we recognize these duties.
There is. It's the concept of oikeiosis. It's a bit tricky to translate, but it means something like appropriation or familiarization, the natural process by which our circle of concern expands.
It starts with me, looking out for number one.
It does, naturally. Self-preservation is the starting point. But the Stoics argued that as we develop reason, they often pegged this around age 7 or so, our concern naturally starts to expand.
Beyond just instinct.
Yeah. We move from just basic affection to a rational understanding of our connection to others. First, to those closest parents, siblings, the people who care for us.
But crucially for the Stoics, it doesn't stop there. It keeps expanding.
Right. This rational development, if followed correctly, leads to the understanding that we're connected to all human beings. This is the Stoic idea of cosmopolitanism, being a citizen of the world. It means we have a kind of duty of care that extends way beyond our immediate tribe or nation.
Hierocles had that image. The
Mm.
circles, right. That seems really practical for dealing with difficult family members.
It's incredibly helpful. Imagine concentric circles radiating outwards. At the very center is you, the self.
Okay.
The next circle contains your immediate family, spouse, children, parents, siblings, people you have very direct, strong duties towards.
Yeah, and
Then comes the circle of more extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. After that, maybe your local community, your fellow citizens, and the final largest circle encompasses all of humanity.
so how does this help me deal with, say, that cousin who always creates drama or seems to manipulate situations?
You use the circles to calibrate your response and manage your emotional energy. That cousin isn't in your innermost circle. They're likely in the extended family ring.
Okay.
So your kathy quanta, your duty towards them, is defined by that position. You owe them basic human decency, fairness, maybe appropriate goodwill as a relative, but you do not owe them the same level of intense concern, emotional investment, or accommodation that you owe your spouse or child in the inner circle.
So mentally, I can kind of place them in that outer circle.
Exactly. You perform the duties appropriate to that circle, but you consciously prevent their drama from penetrating your core, your inner circle. It's about setting rational boundaries based on roles, not just emotional reaction.
This also seems relevant to how we view friendship within families. Seneca had some strong words about transactional relationships.
Oh, Seneca is brilliant on this.
Yeah.
He contrasts true friendship, which he says should be sought for its own sake, based on shared virtue, almost like an intense love with relationships based on utility.
To getting something out of it.
Yeah. He warns against sinking friends for the purpose of having someone to come and sit beside his bed when he is ill or come to his rescue. He calls that turning friendship into a business deal.
But hang on, isn't part of family about helping each other out? Isn't there an expectation of mutual support?
There often is, culturally. But from a Stoic perspective on virtue, if your primary motivation for maintaining the relationship or for doing something kind is based on expecting a return, expecting them to be useful to you later, then you've missed the point
So the focus has to be on my action, my intention.
entirely. Seneca argues that someone you treat as a friend only for their usefulness will likely vanish when times get tough, or when helping you becomes inconvenient for them, because the relationship was never grounded in genuine goodwill, only in transaction.
So applying this to family, my duty is to be the good sibling, the supportive child, the reliable cousin.
Regardless of whether they reciprocate. Yes. Your focus is on fulfilling your role virtuously. You aim to be the relative ready to die for them or follow them into exile, as Seneca puts it metaphorically. You act out of duty and rational goodwill.
Without expecting them to necessarily act the same way back.
Precisely. If you help your brother move house purely because you expect him to help you next month, the moral quality of your act is diminished. Especially in families where, let's be honest, the people who often need the most might also be the hardest to deal with. You have to be prepared to act virtuously without expecting applause or payback.
Wow. Okay, so be the virtuous one, fulfill your role, don't expect a transaction. That really shifts the dynamic away from resentment when people don't meet our expectations.
It cuts resentment off at the root, because your peace doesn't depend on their response, only on your own virtuous action.
All right, we've got internal control, we've got our duties defined. Now, the really tough part. Section 3, handling actual conflict, injustice, anger.
Yeah, the moment of truth. When you're right in the thick of it, feeling attacked, misunderstood, or just plain furious.
And this is where Marcus Aurelius, the emperor dealing with constant stress and backstabbing, offers some really potent advice.
He really does.
Yeah.
His meditations are full of practical emotional first aid. On dealing with hatred or contempt from others, maybe a family member who seems to despise you, his advice is striking.
What does he say?
He writes something like, "Will any hate me? Let him look to that," meaning that's his problem, his issue to deal with. I, for my part, will be kind and loving unto all, and even unto him that hates me.
Wow. Even to the one hating you.
Yes. But then he adds a crucial qualifier.
Which
Don't
is...
do it by way of exprobation or ostentation of my patience.
Meaning, don't rub it in, don't be kind just to show them up or make them feel bad.
Exactly. It can't be a performance. If your kindness is designed to demonstrate your moral superiority or make them feel guilty, you're not being virtuous. You're just fighting back in a more subtle, passive-aggressive way.
It has to be genuine inner calm.
It has to be real.
Yeah.
Marcus says the gods look inward, they see the true state of the soul. They want to see someone truly free from all indignation and grief. The work is internal, not about outward display.
He also connects anger and grief to weakness. That feels counterintuitive sometimes. Anger can feel powerful.
It can feel powerful, like a surge of energy. But for the Stoics, it's a sign of weakness because it means you've surrendered your rational control to an external event. You've let something outside be from. You dictate your inner state.
So becoming angry is like admitting defeat to the external trigger.
In a sense, yes. You're saying, this remark, this action is so powerful it can overthrow my reason. Marcus argues the closer you are to apathy, not apathy, but unpassionateness, freedom from disturbing emotions, the closer you are to true strength, true power. The strong person is gentle, precisely because their inner settle is secure.
Okay, that helps in the heat of the moment. But what about the long haul? The family members who are just consistently difficult, the ones you know are going to cause drama every single time.
Yeah, the chronic cases. Marcus addresses this too, quite bluntly.
How?
He says it's a madman's part to look that there should be no wicked men in the world because it's impossible.
You can't expect a world free of difficult people.
You just can't. We have to accept, rationally, that people with flaws, people who act poorly, people who might seem wicked or just deeply annoying, are part of the fabric of reality, including within our own families.
Oh.
To constantly rage against this fact is irrational and exhausting.
So acceptance of the reality of difficult people, that leads us to the big Stoic tool for dealing with this long-term vexation perspective.
The cosmic perspective, it's a signature move, especially for Marcus Aurelius.
How does it work? What does he do?
He deliberately zooms out. He contemplates the sheer vastness of the universe, the immensity of time stretching infinitely backwards and forwards. He considers his own body, the source of his immediate sensations and stresses, as just a tiny speck within that vastness.
And how does looking at the stars help with an argument about who hosts Christmas dinner?
It radically shrinks the perceived importance of the argument. Marcus would also contemplate time. Think about everyone involved in this current drama, you, the annoying relative, the issue itself. Then picture the sweep of eternity. How quickly will all of this and all of us be forgotten, swept away into obscurity? He points out that the person who lives 100 years and the infant who dies tomorrow essentially share the same fate in the grand scheme of cosmic time.
So this argument that feels all-consuming right now, in the context of eternity, it's nothing.
Pretty much, it forces you to ask, is this temporary disturbance really worth sacrificing my inner peace, my virtue, right now? It's the ultimate reality check.
That's a powerful perspective shift, but maybe a bit overwhelming too. Does it paralyze you?
It could, if you get lost in the abstraction. But the practical application, the Stoic pivot, is always back to the present moment. If the cosmic view feels too vast, you bring your focus right back here, right now.
To the task at hand.
Yes. What is my duty right now? Maybe it's listening patiently, even if I disagree. Maybe it's stating my boundary calmly. Maybe it's just maintaining inner composure while someone else is losing theirs. By focusing intensely on acting virtuously in this moment, Marcus says you gentle the passing of time's precipitous flight. You find peace in present action.
Let's look at Musonius Rufus. He faced way worse than family drama.
Exile, right?
Yes, exile to Gyara, apparently a horrible barren island, a place designed for suffering. Yet, by all accounts, Musonius maintained his composure, his freedom of thought, his ability to teach philosophy.
How did he do that?
Yeah.
How is that a model for us?
He treated his exile as an external and indifferent. It was happening to his body, to his circumstances, but it couldn't touch his inner freedom, his prohairesis. He famously said things like, "Have I been robbed of free speech? You must admit that you have never seen me groaning or moaning because of my exile."
He endured the hardship without internalizing the suffering.
Yeah.
His body was exiled, but his mind wasn't.
That's the core of it. And this connects directly to a really stark warning from Epictetus, especially relevant for people-pleasing tendencies within families.
What's the warning?
He says, very clearly, if you start compromising your values, changing your behavior, chasing externals, just to please other people, maybe family members who demand you live a certain way, earn a certain amount, hold certain beliefs.
If you do that, Epictetus says, You must know that you have lost your purpose in life.
Lost your purpose. That's huge.
It is. Because your real purpose, your only true goal as a Stoic, is to live virtuously in accordance with reason. If you trade your integrity, your authentic judgment, your internal compass just to gain the approval of others, which is an external you can't control anyway, you've fundamentally betrayed your own reason. You've chosen indifferent over the only true good.
So you have to be willing to disappoint people, even family, to stay true to your principles.
You have to be satisfied, Epictetus insists, with simply being a philosopher, meaning someone's striving to live virtuously, even if others disapprove or don't understand your choices about career, lifestyle, or anything else. Your self-worth comes from your character, not their validation.
Maintain the inner fortress, even if it means standing alone sometimes.
That's the ultimate Stoic stance. That's preserving your purpose.
Okay, this has been incredibly rich. Let's try to distill the key takeaways as we wrap up. What are the core Stoic tools we've unpacked for handling family drama?
I think there are three big ones. First and foremost, that relentless focus on the internal. Master your judgments, your values, your choices, your volition. Everything else, everything external, including other people's behavior and opinions, has to be rigorously classified as indifferent to your actual well-being.
Got it. Internal focus, above all. Second,
Understanding and acting on your duties, your kathekanta. Recognizing these duties flow outward rationally, using Hierocles circles perhaps to define what's appropriate for each relationship. And crucially, acting virtuously within those roles without expecting a transactional return. Be the good relative you aspire to be, regardless of their response.
right. Duty defined by role, not an expectation of reward. And the third tool.
Perspective. Using that cosmic zoom out to shrink conflicts down to size, reminding yourself of the vastness of time and space,
Okay.
and accepting rationally that difficult people are just part of the human landscape. Neutralize the anger and anxiety with that broader view.
Focus inward, act according to duty, maintain perspective. It's a powerful toolkit. We started by saying family struggle is almost unavoidable. The Stoic approach doesn't deny the pain, but it reframes the struggle itself.
Absolutely. And that leads to maybe a final thought, something to really chew on, which connects to Viktor Frankl's work, logotherapy.
Frankl, who survived the concentration camps and wrote about finding meaning in suffering.
Exactly. Frankl argued that real satisfaction, real meaning, often comes not when things are easy or when we get rewards, but when we've endured hardship and done something meaningful despite it. He found that even in the horrific conditions of the camps, people could find meaning by choosing their attitude, by helping others, by holding on to inner freedom.
That's an intense comparison, but I see the link. If meaning can be forged in such extreme adversity.
Then maybe, just maybe, the everyday, persistent challenges of family life, the misunderstandings, the frustrations, the old wounds, aren't just obstacles to our happiness or peace. Maybe they are the very crucible in which we forge character.
The testing ground.
The ultimate testing ground. Perhaps family drama offers us the most consistent, most demanding opportunity to practice these Stoic principles, to choose our response, to live out our values, to cultivate that inner resilience, not by changing them, but by mastering ourselves in relation to them. Maybe that's where the deepest meaning lies.
A powerful thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.